Every day you feed a habit, you either build a champion or you breed your own destruction. And the truth? Most people are feeding their downfall, one scroll, one snooze, one excuse at a time. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you're disappearing into someone you no longer recognize? You used to dream big. You used to be on fire. Now you're just surviving, day after day, replaying the same tired routine, hoping for something to change without changing anything. But here's the promise. By the end of this video, you'll understand why killing your weak habits is the only way to rebuild yourself into someone you respect, someone the world must respect. Let's get to work. Everybody wants to change their life, but nobody wants to kill who they've been. That's the real reason transformation is so rare. People chase motivation like it's magic fairy dust, hoping that the right video, the right quote, the right podcast will somehow override years of undisciplined living. But it won't. What you need is a funeral, a burial ground for the weak version of yourself. Because the truth is, real change doesn't begin when you feel inspired. It begins when you get disgusted, not annoyed, not a little uncomfortable, disgusted, so tired of your own excuses, your own laziness, your own patterns, that you slam your fist on the table and say, "This ends now." Let me tell you about a man named Alex. He was once the guy who talked big, dreams of starting a business, getting in shape, being respected. He had all the language, but none of the follow-through. His mornings started with snooze buttons. His nights ended with Netflix. He kept waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. Then one day, after another missed deadline, another self-broken promise, he looked in the mirror and broke, not in tears, but in rage. Rage at the wasted potential. Rage at how soft he had become. And in that moment, he didn't download another podcast or journal about his goals. He wrote an obituary. He took out a piece of paper and wrote, "Today, I bury the version of me that played small, the one who talked but never walked, the one who settled. He's gone, dead, and from this day forward, I'll build a man I can look in the eyes." That was the day everything changed. Because here's what most people don't understand. Habits don't die peacefully. They don't let go with a hug and a wave. Weak habits have claws. They fight back. They beg to stay alive. That's why you need a burial ground. You need a line in the sand, a violent end to the parts of you that are quietly killing you. Psychologically, it's called identity death, and it's painful, but it's also the only way to be reborn. You cannot build a strong future on the rotting corpse of your past behavior. You have to end it, not gradually, not someday, now. So stop chasing feel-good moments. Start planning a funeral. Pick one habit, just one, that you know has to die. Write its name down. Look at it, feel it, and bury it with intention. Burn the list. Toss it in the trash. Tear it in half. But mark the day. Because on this day, you didn't just watch another video. You change your life. Motivation fades. Funerals are permanent. Kill who you're not, so you can finally become who you are. Comfort doesn't scream like pain. It whispers. That's why it's so dangerous. You don't even know you're addicted until it's too late. Until one day you wake up and realize you've been sleepwalking through your own life, chasing ease instead of evolution. And that's the tragedy of comfort. It seduces you slowly. See, nobody chooses mediocrity on purpose. Nobody wakes up saying, "I want to be average." No, what happens is comfort creeps in. One skipped workout, one missed opportunity, one more hit of the snooze button. And before long, you've built a lifestyle so padded, so protected, that your ambition dies quietly in the background. Let me tell you about a young woman named Jenna. She had big dreams of becoming a writer. Passion, talent, fire. But the job she took after college, it paid well, gave her weekends off, came with health benefits. You know what else it gave her? Complacency. She told herself she'd write on the side. One day, soon, years passed. The novel never got written. Her fire? Extinguished, not by failure, but by comfort. She didn't burn out. She just settled in. That's how comfort kills. And the scary part? It doesn't feel bad. It feels good. That's why it's the most addictive drug on earth. It gives you just enough to stay satisfied, but never enough to grow. Psychologically, comfort is tied to safety. Our brains are wired to seek certainty, familiarity, patterns. It's primal. But in a modern world, that wiring becomes a trap, because growth only happens in discomfort. Stretching, failing, struggling. The exact things your brain tries to avoid. The people who win in life, they aren't the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who voluntarily walk into it. They choose challenge. They create pressure because they understand pressure creates diamonds. Comfort creates dust. And here's the thing. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to leave. Just like any addiction, the body gets used to it. Your standards lower. Your dreams shrink to fit your environment. So what do? You disrupt the pattern. You wake yourself up on purpose. Every single day, do something that interrupts your comfort cycle. Take the stairs. Start the project. Speak up when it's easier to stay silent. Each action is a small rebellion against the addiction to ease. Look around at your life, the habits, the routine, the choices. Ask yourself, is this path building me or just keeping me safe? Because safe isn't the goal. Alive is the goal. On fire is the goal. Building something that outlasts you, that's the goal. Comfort will offer you a soft pillow and a slow death. Discomfort will offer you growth and greatness. You can't chase both. You gotta choose your comfort zone or your calling. It's not the habits you hate that are killing you. It's the ones you've justified. The ones you convince yourself are not that bad. The late night scrolling because you had a stressful day. The skipped workout because you're just too tired. The fast food just this once, every week. That's the trap. The most dangerous habit in your life is the one you've given a story to, because once you get a reason, it becomes immune to your goals. You protected it. You've shielded it with excuses. And now it's killing you quietly. Let me introduce you to Marcus. Marcus was smart, ambitious, but he had a small problem. He needed a drink to unwind every night. Nothing extreme, just a glass or two of wine. He told himself it helped him relax, helped him sleep, helped him think. That was his story, until his goals started slipping. He was tired in the mornings. His workouts declined. His creativity vanished. He didn't realize that the habit he was defending was draining the very energy he needed to change. That's how it works. The moment you start defending a behavior, you stop questioning its cost. And here's the truth. Every habit has a price. Whether you notice it or not, your rituals are either making you stronger or softer, more focused or more foggy. There's no neutral. Psychologically, this is called cognitive dissonance. It's the inner conflict that shows up when your actions don't align with your identity. But instead of changing the action, we rewrite the story. We say, I deserve this, or it's not that bad, or everyone does it. But the body doesn't care about your story. The brain doesn't care about your justification. The consequences are coming, whether you believe in them or not. And the worst part? These habits don't show their damage overnight. They erode you slowly, quietly, a little less energy, a little less clarity, a little less confidence, until one day you wake up and ask, how did I become this person? The answer? Just one harmless habit at a time. So how do you kill it? You shine a light on it. You get brutally honest. You ask, what's the habit I'm constantly defending? The one I explain away every time someone questions it? The one I know deep down is hurting me? That's the one. And when you find it, you don't negotiate with it. You declare war on it. You rip it from your life like poison from a wound. Because the longer you protect it, the longer it robs you. You don't need more willpower. You need less denial, less storytelling, less sugarcoating. Because the habit that's killing you isn't hiding. It's the one you already know, the one you're still making excuses for. And the moment you stop defending it is the moment you start becoming unstoppable. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's not a personality trait. It's not just who you are. No, discipline is a weapon, sharpened by choice. forged in discomfort, carried into battle every single day of your life. People say, I wish I was more disciplined, as if it's a gift some people just get. But that's the lie. The truth? Discipline is built. It's earned by showing up when it's boring, when it's painful, when it's easier to quit. It's not about talent. It's about training. There's a story I'll never forget. A man named Darren, ordinary guy, no special background, no athletic history. But one day, he looked at his life and realized he was slipping, gaining weight, losing focus, wasting time. So he made a decision, not a dramatic one. He didn't sign up for a marathon or hire a fancy coach. He just decided every morning at 5 a.m., he would run 1 mile, rain or shine. Day 1, miserable. Day 2, worse. By week 3, he hated the sound of his alarm clock, but he never missed, not once. And something started to change, not just in his body, but in his mind. His posture changed. His confidence shifted, not because of the mile, but because of the discipline. See, discipline doesn't just shape your habits. It shapes your identity. Psychologically, this is known as identity reinforcement. Every time you follow through on a commitment, especially when it's hard, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming, not the person you hope to be, the person you are. And here's where it gets powerful. Discipline compounds. One small act of self-control leads to another. Suddenly you're eating cleaner, speaking with more clarity, saying no to distractions, walking into rooms with conviction. Why? Because you trust yourself now. You see, motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. Motivation asks how you feel. Discipline doesn't care. Discipline says, this is who I am. This is what I do. And it becomes a weapon against laziness, against self-doubt, against every voice that says, you can't. Discipline cuts through that noise. It silences weakness. It builds armor around your goals. And if you don't use it, someone else will. Because while you're negotiating with your excuses, someone else is wielding discipline like a sword, slashing through obstacles, winning the day while you're still hitting snooze. So the question is simple. Are you building your weapon or leaving it to rust? Because life will come at you. Storms will hit. Resistance will rise. The undisciplined fold. The disciplined fight. You don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be ready. And discipline, that's how you load the chamber. Not a trait, not a mood, a weapon. And it's time you start carrying it. Respect doesn't come from how loud you speak or how confident you look. It comes from how many times you've looked yourself in the mirror and said no. No to your impulses. No to your cravings. No to your distractions. No to the easy way out. Because here's the hard truth. If you can't say no to yourself, no one will take your yes seriously either. We live in a world that glorifies indulgence. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Live a little. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoyment, there's a fine line between reward and regression. And that line is defined by your ability to self-regulate. Take this example. Tyler was a high-level sales rep, smart, driven, always chasing the next commission. But he had a problem. Every time stress hit, he reached for a vice, junk food, video games, endless social media scrolling. He always said, I'm just unwinding. But that nightly escape turned into an identity. Slowly, his performance dipped. His energy dropped. His confidence faded. Not because of the outside world, but because he could never say no to himself. And that's the turning point for most people. Not discipline against the world, but against your own worst tendencies. Psychologically, this is called self-regulation. It's the foundation of every form of success, emotional, financial, physical. It's your brain's ability to override short-term pleasure for long-term purpose. But every time you give in to the urge, eat what you said you wouldn't, waste the time you swore you'd use, say just this once, you weaken that muscle. And here's the kicker. People can feel it, whether they say it or not. People lose respect for those who can't control themselves. Why? Because if you're a slave to your appetite, how can you lead others? If you cave to every comfort, how can anyone trust your word? True respect starts with self-respect. And self-respect is born the moment you say, I want that, but I won't take it because I said I wouldn't. You want power? Control your emotions when it's easier to explode. You want confidence? Follow through when nobody's watching. You want respect? Say no to yourself when every part of you screams yes, because that's where trust is built. Your word isn't proven when things are easy. It's proven when you stare down temptation and say, not today. It's proven when you delay pleasure, not because you hate it, but because your future deserves better. Nobody admires the person who gives in every time. They pity them. They overlook them. They doubt them. But the one who stands tall against their own weakness, that's the one they follow. So don't just say yes to your dreams. Start saying no to your impulses. Because real strength, real respect, is born the moment you master you. Growth is never born in comfort. Change never begins where things are easy. If it doesn't challenge you, if it doesn't press you, stretch you, and almost break you, it will never change you. That's the rule. Not just in theory, but in life. We all want transformation, but nobody wants the friction that comes with it. We want the results, confidence, strength, clarity, but we avoid the weight that forges them, like someone wanting muscles without lifting anything heavy. It doesn't work like that. You don't grow by wishing. You grow by struggling. Think about this. A butterfly has to fight its way out of the cocoon. It's a process that looks painful, even unnecessary, but it's essential. If you cut it out early, thinking you're helping, it won't survive, because the fight is what strengthens its wings. You're no different. The challenge is not the punishment. It's the preparation. Take Monica, a woman who worked a safe 9 to 5 for years. She had a dream of starting her own business, but always hesitated. Too risky. Too many unknowns. Until one day, she was laid off without warning. Her safety net was gone. Suddenly, she had two choices, crumble or rise. That pressure, that uncertainty, that fire, it woke her up. She dove in, studied, built, hustled. And yes, she failed, but she failed forward. A year later, she had a business. 2 years later, she had a team. 5 years later, she had freedom. Not because life handed her an opportunity, but because life challenged her. And that challenge changed her. This isn't just motivational fluff. It's backed by psychology. Psychologists call it adaptive stress. When you're pushed outside your comfort zone, your brain rewires. New pathways form. New levels of resilience get activated. Your threshold for fear rises. You become a different person, not because the outside world changed, but because you did. You see, adversity is a forge. Resistance is the weight room of the mind. And pressure? Pressure is a sculptor that shapes your potential into performance. So if you're running from discomfort, understand what you're actually running from: growth. You want to change your mindset? Challenge it. You want to shift your habits? Break them under pressure. You want to evolve your identity? Step into the fire and stay there long enough to burn off the old version of you. Don't fear the challenge. Lean into it. Welcome it. Say, finally, something strong enough to build me. Because the truth is, anything that doesn't challenge you will never change you. And if you want to change your life, your mindset, your future, then invite the weight. Stop praying for ease. Start preparing for resistance. Because only through the challenge do you ever get the gift of real change. You don't find yourself, you forge yourself. One of the greatest lies we've been sold is the idea that our identity is something hiding inside us, waiting to be discovered like buried treasure. But the truth? Your identity isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, habit by habit. You are not born confident. You become confident by doing hard things and surviving them. You are not born disciplined. You become disciplined by saying no to comfort, over and over, until it becomes your nature. You don't find yourself in a yoga retreat or a personality test. You construct yourself through deliberate action. Let me tell you about Devin. He used to say, "I'm just not a morning person." He wore it like a badge, like it was part of his DNA. But one day he got sick of always being behind, always reactive, always chasing the day instead of leading it. So he made a decision, just one. Wake up at 5 a.m. for 30 days. No excuses. No snooze button. Just get up and move. The first week was hell. His body resisted. His mind whined. But he did it anyway. By day 15, something shifted. Not just in his sleep schedule, but in his identity. He stopped saying, "I'm not a morning person," and started saying, "This is who I am now." Because every time you follow through on commitment, especially when it's hard, you send a vote to your subconscious. This is the kind of person I am. That's how identity works. It's not a discovery. It's a reputation you build with yourself. Psychologists call it self-signaling. Your brain watches your actions and draws conclusions. You say you're serious about change, but if your actions say otherwise, your mind stops believing you. But if you start showing up consistently, your identity shifts. You start seeing yourself differently. Others do, too. You want to become a leader? Lead yourself first. You want to be seen as someone reliable? Keep the promises you whisper in the dark when no one's looking. You want to be proud of who you are? Then earn that pride, not with talk, but with transformation. We all want to be someone great. But the difference between the dreamer and the doer is that the doer acts into identity, not waits for it. You don't need a revelation. You need repetition. You don't need to feel like the person you want to be. You need to act like them and let your identity catch up. Because the truth is this: you are not who you were yesterday. You are who you choose to become today. And every single day, you're laying down the bricks of your identity through what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you sacrifice. So don't just hope to find yourself. Pick up the hammer and start building. No one wakes up one morning and says, "Today I'll destroy my potential." That's not how it happens. It happens in inches, in silent trades, in tiny deals with your weaker self. One missed workout, one more excuse, one more just this once. The road to regret is paved with small compromises. And the problem? They don't feel dangerous at first. In fact, they feel reasonable. You tell yourself, it's just one slice of cake. It's only 5 more minutes in bed. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never shows up. Only the consequences do. A man doesn't lose his integrity in one day. He loses it in 1,000 quiet moments where he chooses comfort over character. A woman doesn't lose her dreams in one big moment of failure. She loses them in a slow drip of delay and distraction, until one day she looks up and the dream's a ghost. I met a man once who used to be a brilliant writer in his youth. Poetry, stories, vision, you name it, he had it. But he took a job he hated just for now, just to pay the bills. 1 year became 10. He stopped writing, stopped dreaming. And every time I asked him why, he'd say the same thing: "I got busy." But buried underneath that phrase was 1,000 little surrenders. He didn't choose a mediocre life all at once. He drifted into it one compromise at a time. Psychologically, this is known as the slippery slope effect. Each time you violate your own standard, your brain lowers the bar just a little. And before you know it, you're not even the same person anymore. You're softer. You're slower. You're lost. That's how regret is born. Not in the moment, but in the accumulation of moments. The scary part is, small compromises feel harmless. That's what makes them so dangerous. You don't just become disciplined. You stay disciplined by protecting the small things. That's where the battle is. Not in the big dramatic decisions, but in the quiet ones when no one's watching. You want to avoid regret? Guard the small gates. Treat every little decision like it's shaping your future, because it is. Those 15 minutes you waste scrolling, they're not just 15 minutes. They're 15 opportunities stolen from your progress. That one conversation you avoided, it's not just awkwardness delayed. It's a leadership moment lost. It's the small compromises, stacked, unchecked, ignored, that eventually rob you of a life you were meant to live. So, here's the truth you've got to wrestle with. Every yes to weakness is a no to greatness. Every excuse is a brick in the wall between you and who you could be. And in the end, it's not the pain of discipline that'll haunt you. It's the pain of regret. So don't play small. Don't justify the tiny leaks. Plug them now, because small compromises always lead to big regrets. Every time you make an excuse, you're not defending your potential. You're defending your limitations. You're building a case not for greatness, but for staying exactly where you are. And the more you rehearse those excuses, the more convincing they sound to you. The danger of excuses is that they feel like logic. They feel like reason. I'm too tired. I didn't have time. They didn't support me. These aren't facts. These are stories. And the problem with stories is, when you tell them enough, you start to believe them. They become your truth. But they're not truth. They're prisons. And the bars are made of your own words. Let me tell you about Jordan. He wanted to start a business. Said he had the idea, the passion, the drive. But every week he'd say, now's just not the right time. He said it when he had a job. He said it when he lost that job. He said it when he had money. And when he didn't, 5 years later, the dream is still on paper. An excuse? Still the same. Not the right time. But here's the truth. He wasn't waiting on timing. He was protecting his limitations. Psychologists call this self-handicapping. It's when you create a reason for failure ahead of time. So if things go wrong, you don't have to blame yourself. I didn't study because I knew I wouldn't pass anyway. I didn't go to the gym because I've never been athletic. It's armor for the ego, but a coffin for progress. Excuses are seductive. They whisper to your pride. They offer you comfort in the moment, but they steal your power. Because every time you make an excuse, you give away control. You say, this is bigger than me. I'm not responsible. And once you hand over responsibility, you surrender your ability to change. There is no transformation without ownership. You cannot fix what you won't admit. And you cannot grow while you're arguing for why you can't. Here's a line to tattoo on your mindset. You can have excuses or you can have progress, but you cannot have both. If you want to become someone you've never been, you have to stop defending who you've always been. Stop arguing for the habits, the beliefs, the laziness that's kept you average, because they might explain your past, but they don't justify your future. The moment your excuses become unacceptable, your results start to change. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Every excuse is a brick wall. Tear it down. Every excuse is a leash. Cut it. Every excuse is a story you don't have to keep telling. You want freedom? Stop rehearsing limitations. And instead of saying, I can't because, start saying, I will, no matter what. Because the life you want isn't on the other side of more excuses. It's on the other side of responsibility. You will never rise higher than your respect for yourself. Rebuilding is not just about changing your habits, your environment, or your routines. It's about something deeper, how you see yourself. You can't become a better person if you allow yourself to be treated like a second-rate version of you. Self-respect isn't about being perfect. It's about demanding more from yourself. I want you to think about the promises you've made to yourself, the ones you've broken, the ones that linger like whispers of regret. The truth? Every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your own dignity. And when that happens, you can't rebuild. Not really. Because without self-respect, the foundation is cracked. Think about someone you respect. Maybe a mentor, a parent, or a leader you admire. Would you ever tolerate them breaking their word? Would you allow them to continuously fail to live up to their own standards? Of course not. But here's the kicker. If you don't hold yourself to the same standard, you're teaching your subconscious that you're not worth it. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. When you disrespect yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. You allow yourself to be treated as less than what you're capable of. Every time you choose comfort over growth, or every time you settle for mediocrity, you give others permission to do the same. But the opposite is also true. When you stand firm in your self-respect, the world begins to take notice. You start commanding respect from others, not because you demand it, but because you deserve it. Let me tell you about Carla. She was always a people pleaser. She gave and gave, but never held herself accountable. She let everyone's needs come before her own, until she became invisible in her own life. One day, she realized that she was slowly disappearing. She wasn't unhappy. She wasn't sad. She was simply unseen. So she made a decision. She drew a line in the sand. She decided to stop being the person who sacrificed herself for others and started being the person who respected herself enough to say no. And at first, people were shocked. They pushed back. But eventually, they adapted. And so did she. Her career flourished. Her relationships deepened. She started to respect herself. And in turn, the world began to respect her too. Ruthless self-respect isn't about being rigid or unyielding. It's about honoring your own potential, no matter what. It's about not letting excuses, distractions, or negative influences dictate the terms of your life. It's about saying, I will not settle. I will not break my promises to myself. And here's the truth you need to grasp. You can't rebuild your life without demanding the best from yourself. You can't move forward if you're okay with staying stuck in habits that dishonor your potential. This doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean being immune to failure. It means refusing to tolerate the things that keep you small. You need to hold yourself accountable to a standard that others can't define for you. You need to stand tall in your own self-worth and never back down. Because rebuilding yourself doesn't start with the actions you take. It starts with how you respect yourself enough to take them. Your future is a reflection of how you treat yourself today. So, ask yourself, what's it going to be? Will you stand in your own corner? Or will you keep breaking the promises that you deserve to keep? The rebuilding starts with ruthless self-respect.